welcome back to another episode of Real Results with Coach Joe. I'm your host, Coach Joe Villegas. This is the program where we help you to improve your health, increase your wealth, and live a more fulfilling life. And I had to bring back my special guest, Jeff Wickersham, for a second installment. Jeff, welcome back to the show, brother. How you doing?
Joe, I am fantastic. Thanks for having me back.
Awesome. Anytime, anytime. So on the previous episode, Jeff and I really dug into the kryptonites, as he likes to call them, or the vices that dads run into, and things that they can do to start to dig themselves out of the hole and become the best version of themselves, for their family and for the broader community. What I want to talk about with you today, Jeff, is you've got a very special program that you've rolled out. There's a couple classes I've already gone through. This is the Warrior Dad Experience. And this thing is like nothing I've ever heard of. So what I want to do is kind of talk about what was the story behind this program? How did it come to be? And then we'll talk about all the great things you're doing to help dads just become the best version of themselves. So let's start with the origin story, if you will.
Yeah, as I was thinking about my journey and where I came from and those vices, those kryptonites, those dark places that I went through, being on the other side, you learn valuable life lessons. They're harsh lessons, they're painful lessons, but I learned those lessons. And as I was thinking about who do I truly want to serve and help, it came in like a shot to the heart, and it was like dads. That's who the number one thing I love doing. I love being a dad. It's the greatest gift I've ever been given in life. I want to help other dads be their best version of themselves, for themselves, but also their kids, and create a legacy. So, it was through all the work I did on myself, and then I said, all right, let me take these dads through a 10-week immersive program to put away all of those troubles, those stresses, build these small, simple, easy, almost laughable habits, be in a brotherhood, and truly step into the greatness and that inner hero that each of us has inside. So that's a little bit of a backstory. It came to me and I was like, it's dads. Like, I love being a dad. I love coaching kids. And we need to stand up as leaders, as dads, if we want to change the way society's headed. And I'm not satisfied where it's at. Hatred, polarity, like all anxiety, it's going in a wrong direction. And it starts all at the family level. And how do we do that? Well, we stand up as leaders, as dads.
100%. I love that. And there's a lot to unpack in everything you just said, so we'll get to all that. But what you just said reminds me of a quote from Mother Teresa, right? It says, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family, right? And I think that in order to do that fully, right, it would really help to have someone to guide us, right? A coach, a mentor, to take dads through, some sort of system or a framework to be able to love to the fullest extent, right? If you've got, inner demons, trauma, whatever you want to call it, that you haven't worked out or worked through, or at least have the tools to begin to work through, if your cup's not full, how can you really go and fill others, right? So what I'd love to talk about is just like, let's break this thing down, right? Let's break this bad boy down. So the inception of it, obviously you're bringing to the table, Jeff, lessons, hard-earned lessons that you've had from your own life, which I think is the best way to pass that on, is you've actually lived this and you live it every day yourself. But I think what is really special is you're creating like a tribe, a community for these dads, which, as we talked about in the last episode, is sort of like that cornerstone linchpin thing. Like, you need a good environment. So can you talk a little bit about that community tribe factor that you're putting together?
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is having dads from every walk of life, every location, right? I've got a dad in class 2 in Italy. I've got a dad in Utah, like all over, coming together for that one reason. They want to be the best possible dad they can be. And as men, being a dad, sometimes it's a little unnatural, right? We don't have that maternal instinct that mothers have. So we've been, again, kind of fed through society that we need to earn, we need to provide. I will tell you, your kids don't give a crap about how much money you make. They want the time that you can put in, and having that intentionality of pouring into your family. It's kind of a foreign subject, or something that a lot of dads just struggle with. And through that 10-week program, we are pouring into our kids. And I say there's nothing better every day to say, hey, did I pour everything into my family? And if you did, That's the greatest gift that you can give your children and your legacy that you're building.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point, right? Is like, no matter what, like whoever's in this program, they could be a billionaire with a B, or they could be, you know, making minimum wage, they could have a Ferrari or whatever. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they still have the same title, right? They're all still a dad, and their kids don't care how much money they make or what their title is or how cool they think they are. You still got to show up and do the gig. You still got to be a dad. And I think that's important for us to realize, like, no matter all these achievements and external factors, you still got to show up and do the job and do it to the best of your ability. And I love that you have that question. Like, at the end of the day, you know, ask yourself, really, did I give everything I could have to my family today? And I know, being a newer dad myself, that's something I will continue to ask myself, as we spoke about in a previous call. So I just think that's phenomenal. Is there anything, Jeff, like, let's kind of dive into the program a little more. So this is a 10-week program, and knowing you, it's intense. There's no two ways about it. So can you talk about, like, the flow, the structure a little bit of, like, what dads can expect if they were to hop into this experience?
Yeah, I would say it's intense, but it is I designed it plug and play.
Yes.
Right? Where I know you're juggling so many things,
Right.
that you do these small, simple, laughable things. All of a sudden, time opened up, you have more energy, you're focused, all of it. So, you know, we control the bookends. You control the bookends of your day, your PM bookend, AM bookend. You have some semblance of control. So we dial that in, and that's foreign for a lot of dads, right? We talked about vices on the previous episode. A lot of dads are up drinking or checking out porn or social media. No, get a great night's sleep.
Yes.
Be intentional when you wake up. Stack wins. Connect with your family by writing notes, through the love language of pouring into it. Be grateful for, you know, everything that you have in your life. You control those bookends, and then you have accountability on a daily basis. So we're checking in.
Yeah.
You might be connected, like class 2, to a guy in Italy, Utah, Maryland, myself. You're checking in. And when we're a part of a group and we pour in, just like when we pour into our kids and our family, you inevitably get it back. That's not why we do it, but
Right.
that accountability, that consistency, that intentionality is amazing. And those small, simple things that we implement, it creates so much momentum, so much progress. You're not on that hamster wheel of starting and stopping. And so many people are. They're just not consistent enough. When you have accountability, when you have somebody that's driving every single day that I do, then all of a sudden it raises your game, and your whole family feels that positive vibe, feels that different mentality, and they all start to operate in the same way. It's amazingly transformational. Guy in class 2, he sent me a text yesterday. He said, my 3, 4, and 7-year-old just came up to me and said, Dad, can we exercise today? Unprompted. It's from him hitting the gym and then seeing it, right? And we underestimate the impact that we can have just by doing and showing by example, and how our kids are just, they're starving. They're waiting for you to lead, and lead in the right manner. And that's what we do in the experience.
Yeah, and I think no matter what, right, you're always leading to whatever degree it is. We just want to make sure that you're maximizing that position that you're in, right? Just naturally from being a dad. It's funny they mentioned that. So a friend of mine, he runs a martial arts school, and he was telling me how he's had a few dads come up to him and say, hey, you know, my son's not disciplined, he's not practicing his stuff, you know, whatever. Can you help me with that? Like, why is that? And he had to look at him in the face and go, well, do you go to the gym? Do you eat right? Do you practice your stuff? And he had to answer him honestly and say no. And it's like, well, that's where it begins. You know, you're not going to have some martial arts instructor or a teacher or a pastor like raise your kids for you. You have to set the example every minute of every day. And it sounds like a daunting task. And like you said, you know, men don't have that maternal instinct that's necessarily there, but it's grown and cultivated over time. So I guess, Jeff, I would love to know from your opinion, is there anything, like, for dads that are maybe new to the program, do you find like there may be some like nervous energy around, like, gosh, how am I going to live up to this and build this like warrior dad, you know, character that I want to grow into? Is there some nervous energy around that at all ever?
There absolutely is. And I always tell everyone, every dad that comes in, you're not perfect. I'm not. Right. So just give yourself grace, but get back on that horse, right? Never miss twice. Have that mentality of just getting better each day. But there is that nervous energy of trying to figure it out and managing everything. I would say that is the reason why you jump in, though. Then you have a coach that's gone through it multiple times, and I can say, well, tweak this here, do that. and then they're back on those toes. I would also say the other aspect that I've seen, and I experienced this in my own life, is when you invest in yourself, when you start this journey of doing things differently, your spouse, there might be some hesitation, some resistance to change, and there's some difficult conversations. I had many with my wife, and now we joke around old Jeff versus new Jeff. So that's a part of the process initially, because many times the dads that are in have tried things on their own. They've said, yes, I'm going to change to their spouse. They did it for a week, and then they went back to their old habits, and that betrays the trust that you have there in that relationship. So that's a little growing pain through the process, but I always tell them, hey, this is how you kind of approach it, and you're not giving up in this, and I won't let you fail. So you're going to be consistent. Just say, trust it. This is different, and I've got a group, I've got accountability, I have consistency. But those are a couple of the kind of nervous energy pieces that you alluded to.
For sure. And for those dads that are watching, if you ever needed an accountability coach, Jeff is the man. So don't hesitate to sign up with him. So Jeff, I want to kind of like riff on what you were just talking about. So you were talking about how dads might say to their spouse, hey, I'm doing this program or whatever, and I don't want to fall off. I want to stay on target and reach this new goal, and they might be nervous to fall off the horse, so to speak, right? What about the other side of the coin, where there might be a dad who comes to you and they're proactive? They're like, look, man, I want to be the best dad I can possibly be. This is very serious to me. Like, I want to do everything I can. But they might be nervous that their spouse might not accept who they're trying to become, right? They might see it as like, well, now you're just hanging with this group. You're not hanging out with me, or that kind of stuff. Do you ever run into that with the dads you work with?
Yeah, I have. And I say at the end, you need to communicate clearly and with a soft tone and with love in your voice that, listen, I'm doing this because I have this itch on the back of my neck that I know I can be more. I know I can do more. I can be a better man, be a better husband, be a better dad. This is part of my journey. Just know that I'm doing this to show up better for you. Yes. I'm doing this to show up better as a dad. Maybe you didn't have strategies, tactics, and tools that I'm going to get through this program. I'm going to be able to share it with our kids, and that's going to set them up to flourish and thrive in life and build a legacy. Like, when you explain it from that perspective, it eases the transition into working on yourself, and then they eventually see it. And this is the crazy thing, right? I had this with one of the dads in class too. Very similar conversation in the beginning. 6 weeks later, they were doing something. They were late for an air show or something where they were at, and they ended up getting there on time. And his wife actually acknowledged, and she said, you know why? This is because your dad's working so much on himself, and the universe is kind of opening up and allowing to us. So it kind of came full circle. Wow. When they see the consistency, they see day in and day out, this guy is not wavering from his convictions. Then you build that trust, and then they get to the other side.
That is so cool. I love that. That is awesome. And so, and I think another point too, to piggyback on what you're saying, Jeff, is like, if there is some nervousness, say about like, you can't change your spouse, right? You don't have any right to change them as a person, but you do have every right to work on yourself and become that example for those around you. And really that sort of stuff is contagious, like you're saying. If you're really putting in the work and you're dedicated and your candle is shining that bright, it's inevitable that the other candles around you are going to sort of pick up that energy and shine brighter as well. So I know we got to take a quick pause, Jeff. When we come back, I want to keep talking about the experience and hear some more stories about the folks who've gone through this already and the leaps and bounds they've made in their progress. So when we get right back, we'll hear that after this word from our sponsors.
Hi, my name is Janice Kovach, Mayor for the town of Clinton and new host of My Town. Do you ever wonder how something takes place in your town? Do you have questions about how to find out what's happening? Questions about the budget? We've got the answers for you. I'm going to be talking to government officials and elected officials, getting those questions answered. Catch us every Tuesday and Friday at 1:30 on RVN Television.
Welcome. I'm Barry Lefkowitz. I'm your host on New Perspectives on RVN TV. I come to you each week with issues and topics that you will generally find in the news. And if you're looking to be able to get caught up and know what's going on, then New Perspectives is the show for you on RVN TV. Look forward to having you.
Have you heard? Join me, Heather Darling, weekly for a different spin on politics, business, law, and other key issues you will not want to miss right here on RVN TV.
Welcome back to Real Results, and with me today I've got Jeff Wickersham. Jeff and I were just going through a conversation about his Warrior Dad Experience program. So we got to keep it going, Jeff, because this thing is too juicy to throw away. We got to keep covering it. So we talked about before a whole mess of things for dads to jump into, but let's get into the structure of the program a little bit. So what is this experience like for those dads who sign up? Or like, how frequently are they meeting with you, getting coached? They're in this kind of mastermind, tribe you've created. What's that look like in terms of the experience?
Yep. So I'll give you four things. One, we're meeting once a week via Zoom, 60-minute Zoom. I'm speaking on a subject for 45 minutes. We're sharing lessons learned. We're talking. We're networking. We're building those bonds, and we're getting different perspectives from all the dads in the program. Daily, it's accountability. You're checking in every single day that you got your routine done. You bookended your days, as well as on a daily basis. I don't want the dads to have to think about anything to discuss with their families. So every day, I give a family discussion topic idea to talk about. That's awesome. I will record a video. Hey, it could be as easy as, why is water important? And I'll give some science behind it. Right. They share it with the family. You put the phones away for 10 minutes, and you actually plant these seeds of growth throughout the family. And it's amazing to watch and give feedback on it. And then lastly, on a weekly basis, we set missions. Goals I feel like are out there, kind of there maybe I'll attack those missions are a must. So we've set a professional mission, personal mission, and uncomfortable missions. We put them in the chat, then you're accountable. So that's kind of the scheme and how we do it.
That's fantastic. I love that. And so through this structure, like, it obviously is very hands-on. I would imagine very customized to the individual, like what their schedule and things like that. What's the impact been like on these dads you worked with, and even more so their families ultimately?
Yeah, the families, that's what it's about at the end of the day, right? Is yes, we are stepping to the best version of ourselves. We're spiraling up. We're doing these small, simple, almost laughable things daily, consistently. But then the family starts to feel it, right? Then all of a sudden the love has just been amplified, where other family members start writing notes to dad or to mom. And I'll share with me, like, I came into my office a couple weeks ago. On my computer screen was 2 notes from my son Carter. He said, "I love and cherish every moment we spend together.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks for being an amazing dad. I love you, Carter." Wow. Unprompted. I mean, think about that. That's like amazing. When we pour into our kids, when we pour into our families, they give it back, and it develops such a bond and such a relationship, such a positivity, that the whole family feels it. And it's such an amazing way to live, versus when one person's disconnected, when one person's negative, when you're all kind of almost competing for space, and you're not this almost sports team, right? Where you're all on your toes, you're all attacking. It's very difficult to get ahead, and it's very difficult to flourish. But when the dads, the leaders, step up and make these changes, and all of a sudden their kids start to do it, all of a sudden their wives start to do it, it's amazing to watch the transformation. And I just had a dad text me the other day a picture of his kids like working out, but then he sent me another picture, and he said, "I don't know what it is, but I just love my family to death these days." And it's because he's intentionally spending and pouring into them. And it's just amazing to watch. When we can do this, it transforms the game as us as leaders, as dads, and family men. That's amazing. And I think, like, without saying it, you're bringing up a really amazing point, right? Is like, you can have it all. You can have a great career, you can have your own personal goals and mission, but you can also have this incredible
relationship with your family that's full of love and also just like full of connection, right? Like the progress you can make with your family is probably well beyond what most, you know, guys would imagine or even, you know, think is possible just by doing a couple simple things, like just shifting things around, setting the example yourself, and then pouring into your family from there. I mean, it's just, the stuff you talk about is amazing. I know my son's almost 9 months old now, and like the thought of one day walking into my office and having notes from him is just like, I get like chills thinking about it, you know, and that's the kind of stuff that and beyond obviously want to grow up doing with him and building that bond. So I think that's just so incredible. Is there any other like feedback from dads you've had? I need to hear more. This is just amazing.
Yeah, and so one misconception I would love to just blow up,
please,
is this fact that when your kids get to be teenagers, they don't want to spend time with you. It's just not the case. If you're pouring in, you're intentional, you do what they like to do. Like my boys are 14 and 13. They're consistently asking me, hey, can we go shoot hoops, or can we go to the gym and go work out, or, you know, wanting to spend time with me. So this idea, this myth that we're fed by society, like, oh, my kids are teenagers, I can't stand them.
Yeah.
That's a lie.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be that way. And I do it from my own experience. So that was number one. You know, the other piece is where we want our kids to flourish. We're planting these seeds of growth all along. And very similar to how I said when we were talking about in the previous episode, the kryptonites and sharing, being vulnerable with it.
Yes.
In the Warrior Dad experience, we learn at the highest level. So we learn not only to take action for ourselves, but we learn to teach our kids. And when we can share our journey and what we're doing, all of a sudden they start doing those things. I mean, my boys, I've meditated before school with them, taking them through guided meditation for the last 3 years. One of the best parts of my day.
It's amazing.
But imagine, I'm giving them a 30-year head start on meditation that I didn't have. So, you know, it's crazy when you think about that and how we can plant these seeds for future growth.
100%. No, I love that. And a question for you, Jeff. So maybe there's some dads watching this and they're saying to themselves, yeah, this sounds great, but in the back of their mind, they're a little nervous, whether they admit it or not, about being vulnerable, about putting themselves in a position to maybe share that, you know, like you would say, like darker side of things, or, you know, maybe like just experiences in their life they're not necessarily proud of. The double-edged sword there is that it could be an amazing teaching tool for their children, but they're maybe too afraid to be vulnerable. Like, what would you tell them to help them know, like, hey, it's okay to be vulnerable, and in fact, it's a gift, it's a tool to be able to help your family even more? What's something you would say to a dad that's thinking that?
Number one, do you want your son or daughter to go through the same pain? Because they will repeat what you're doing unless you fix it, unless you're transparent, unless you have the courage to say, you know what, I'm not perfect. Here's what happened to me. So, you know, by understanding that they're going to repeat and battle those same demons and dragons, typically that you are, hopefully that gets you off the fear and not thinking about yourself, but actually thinking about your legacy and how they didn't have a choice in the matter. You as a dad have a choice to make a change and course correct. And it only takes one leader, one dad, to change that family tree, that generations to come, when you stand up and have the courage. So if you think about your kids more than yourself, I feel like that's a great piece to get over that fear.
100%. And so to your point about it takes one dad, you know, for dads out there that are watching this episode, maybe you're on the fence, you know, I want to pull a line from Jeff's playbook where it only takes one conversation to change the course of your life. And I would encourage any dad that's watching to reach out to Jeff and just have the conversation, right? It's not a sales pitch, but it's learn more about what's possible and what tools are available to you to be the best dad you possibly can be. So Jeff, we're coming on time here. Where can folks reach you, and where can they find out more about the Warrior Dad experience?
Yep, they can go out to thewarriordad.com, so THE, warriordad.com. Grab a time to speak to me. Again, one conversation could change the trajectory of your life as well as generations to come in your family. So don't discount that. And here's the other factor I'll say. If you don't think you're ready, You just need to commit, because you'll never be ready. We're never ready. When you commit, your game gets raised, and everybody will feel that in your family.
100%. Love that. So definitely, if you're watching this, go check out thewarriordad.com, connect with Jeff, learn more about the program, and get yourself signed up. Do the right thing. All right, so Jeff, thanks so much for coming on, brother. Always love having you here. It's always a pleasure. And for those watching, we'll see you on the next episode of Real Results.